Welcome to another episode of Good Teams Win, Great Teams Cover. We're here continuing our NFL Academy series as we've got our second interview, this time with Barney Shaw, D lineman up at the NFL Academy in Loughborough. But kicking off the episode, we've got myself, Joe and Byron to cover off, I suppose, mainly one news story from the NFL this week that happened yesterday, which we'll get into and talk about. But Joe, Byron, it's been a little bit. We had a full week off since winners and losers of the draft. I think it's been a full week. Yeah, how are you both doing?
Yeah, good. Yeah, enjoying the NFL downtime. Not much going on, but then get something popping, which keeps us interested. Yeah.
Jerry knows just what to do to help us get an intro to an episode sorted out. Joe, how are you getting on?
Yeah, doing good. Some mini camps, some OTAs is happening. So, it's, there's not too much to get excited about and to take note of, but there's little bits here and there of a little bit interesting news. But it's like, okay, that probably solves that issue, which we may have talked about a month or so ago. And yeah, exciting. And like you said, Jerry doesn't disappoint, and it helped us out with this intro.
Excellent. Well, let's talk about start there. So, the big bit of news: George Pickens has been traded from the Pittsburgh Steelers to the Dallas Cowboys for a third-round draft pick for next year and a late-round pick swap. I think it's a fifth and a seventh or fifth and a sixth. I've got it up in front of me as well, and I've just not read it. But yes, Pickens to the Cowboys. Jerry told us a few weeks ago in the lead-up to the draft that had some kind of trades, being lined up, being worked out. We was expecting to see that happen throughout the draft. It didn't. But now we have it. George Pickens, he solves a wide receiver 2 problem that Dallas had after Brandon Cooks went and not really got the production out of him. But yeah, I suppose it came out of, it just happened Wednesday morning. What were your initial thoughts? Byron, Cowboys get a very talented wide receiver 2.
Delighted. Yeah. This was one, it wasn't on our GM charade show, but it's one I pivoted, or posited, not pivoted, at a certain point in our draft previews of, would the Steelers offer 21 and Pickens to move up to 12 to get their quarterback of the future, for example? Obviously, the quarterback market was a bit drier than that, and it seemed like the Steelers weren't interested because they'd passed on them at 21 anyway. But anyway, it seemed like a real natural fit. Dak's an extremely good deep ball passer, one of the best in the league, in my opinion. George Pickens is one of the best deep ball receivers in the league. Dallas have a screaming need at wide receiver 2. CeeDee Lamb is a slot king, eats everything down below. You don't need to send him on these deep routes and, go wasting cardio. I think it's a perfect fit. We will see there's been issues surrounding maybe George Pickens' effort levels. I don't want to say behavior because that feels a bit harsh. I think that's been said a lot. I don't think he's really been too much of a distraction off the field. I think his biggest thing, red flag for me on the field, is his lack of effort when he's not getting the ball. You see him, walking through routes when he knows it's gone the other side or he knows it's going to be a running play. And that can kill a team, seeing that lack of effort. But it's a 1-year trial. He has to prove himself to get a new contract from somebody next year. He said he's not looking for one now from Dallas. He wants to prove himself. He's saying all the right things. We'll see how it works out in the long run. But I think as a 1-year flyer, maybe a third-round pick might seem a bit expensive for a 1-year player, but Dallas have wasted similar picks on a lot worse. So I think you get your good players in the building, get players who can be difference makers, and maybe see if there is more to George Pickens as well. I think the one thing you would say about the Pittsburgh Steelers offense since Pickens being drafted is it hasn't been creative in any way. Matt Canada and Arthur Smith are not OCs I think would ever be making the top offensive coordinator lists by anybody's metric. So maybe there is more to Pickens, but even if you're only getting what you get from him so far, I think I think he's one of the premier receivers at what he does. And yeah, we'll see if they can get more out of him, and perfect foil to CeeDee Lamb.
Joe, initial thoughts on seeing that happen?
Yeah, it's something that the Cowboys had to do. We talked about it in the draft. We were surprised they didn't get one earlier on. I think there was the rumors that they would have gone for T-Mac if he was there available at 12. So they needed someone. You couldn't just go with CeeDee Lamb and expect, Turpin had a good year last year, but to expect him to suddenly be a number 2 wide receiver, I think that might be a bit too much for him. And then you know, you're looking around at some of these veterans where they might have the name but not the game anymore. So we'll see what Pickens can do. Dak certainly needed him. You know, you are stuck with Dak for a good couple of more years with that contract and how much someone would have to pay. So why not give him the weapons to actually help him out instead of just giving him, you know, the running game's not looking amazing and just having one wide receiver. It would be, not great for the Cowboys. Only thing I would be worried about is the Steelers have had a knack over the last decade or so of knowing when to get rid of wide receivers and to certainly get a lot of draft capital for them. You just look at some of the historicals like Santonio Holmes, Martavius Bryant, Antonio Brown when everything was kicking off, Chase Claypool, Deontay Johnson, letting Juju walk. So the ones before they traded away and they let Juju walk without a contract, and none of them have worked out. Some of them have been fairly disastrous at where they've gone to after the hype of like, oh, wow, he's going to help this team massively because of X, Y, and Z. And then suddenly they're on the 4th, 5th club after a couple of years. So that would be my only worry, is that the Steelers and Mike Tomlin has a knack of being like, let's get rid of him. And it sounded like he wants to get rid of him. And quite a few teams weren't even entertaining trying to get him just with the rumors. So, hopefully it works out for you guys. But we'll wait and see.
Well, I like the it does sound rich, doesn't it? A 3rd round draft pick. However, if it doesn't work out, worst case scenario is you're going to get a comp pick for him, right?
It depends how it does. Yeah, it depends how it does. If he has a bit of a disaster this year, then no one's going to pay him the bucks to get that compensation back.
Yeah, you look at Deontay Johnson.
Yeah, I know. How bad would it have to?
His last team were.
Yeah, how bad would it have to go for somebody else not to take a chance on him?
Well, it's not so much taking a chance. It's like to get a comp pick of any sort, they have to be paying him $15 million a year, which if he doesn't have a good season, I don't think he's getting. I think the better outcome is that he's good enough that Dallas want to extend him.
Yeah, and then there's the problems that come with that in terms of then being able to balance the salary cap, but that's a problem for down the line. And ultimately, it's a good problem to have if you're trying to keep him around because he's fitted in well and he's done well. Yeah. Are there any concerns around Mike Tomlin and the Steelers in particular have given these wide receivers? Actually, you mentioned obviously they do get rid of them, but they give them a lot of rope first. Like they give them, it does take a lot for them to kind of part ways. Like Tomlin does give them kind of a lot of chances and just try and work with them. Is it a bit of a shot that kind of, heading into last year of his rookie deal that Tomlin's pulled the plug on him?
Maybe. I mean, it's hard to tell, really, I think. I mean, you wouldn't list it as a positive. Certainly. I just don't know how much of a negative it is. Pittsburgh confused me. They have, I think, by far the most draft capital next year now. I think they have 12 picks already with comp picks allocated. So are they looking to get capital to move up for a quarterback next year? Is Tomlin finally going to eat some medicine this year and have a mediocre record? I think the biggest thing is, the signing of DK Metcalf or the trade for DK Metcalf put a hard out on George Pickens' time in Pittsburgh because they're the same player, essentially. Excuse me.
Nice. I just covered Byron while sneezing. I agree with Byron. I think getting DK does help that, but this is the year. This is the time when they could have got something from. They were obviously not going to get anything next year, and they've seen him for 4 years. So I also trust their process to be like it is the same management, it's the same coaches, it's everything to be like we haven't got what we want to get out of him for 4 years, and there is always the rumor mill where he's more of a hassle to have. And it seems like the Steelers have a lot of them kind of wide receivers. So it's probably best to be like, let's give him to the Cowboys. I'm curious from your point of view, like obviously it's a new coaching regime, new head coach, with his first gig, how he's going to control that kind of play. You've got that happening. You've got, there's again rumors that Parsons' deal has been stalled, and you've got big personalities there to add Pickens into that. Are you any worried about being able to control him if Mike Tomlin can't after 4 years, then can, the new regime in Dallas do the same? Yeah,
that was going to be our next thing. If Tomlin struggled with him and had enough, then how the hell is Brian Schottenheimer going to deal with him? I think that's a fair enough concern. I guess we'll see, because they've preached culture with this whole reset. And, I thought they showed that in the pick that they made at 12 in Tyler Booker. So bringing George Pickens in specifically does kind of contradict that a little bit. But also, this is an opportunity. What Dallas are giving George Pickens is an opportunity to go earn a huge contract. To do that, he's going to have to be part of the team. He's going to have to perform. And I think that if George Pickens can understand his role here, he's not the top dog. That's CD Lamb. He's not going to get, 100 catches. He's not going to get that volume. So there's going to be times where he might be, he might not see the ball as much, but he's going to see a lot of one-on-one opportunities. So if he can maximize the opportunities that Dak will give him, if you can see, Dak will take that deep ball one-on-one if it's on. Pickens is a great contested catch receiver, one of the best 50-50 ball receivers, I think, in the league. And he averages 16 yards a catch in 3 years in the NFL. Then he can have a big season. And that's ultimately what he wants. He wants that. Cowboys want that. It's an opportunity for everybody to win. So I think you just kind of maybe this is his opportunity to mature a little bit, because we see some of that on a Sunday where he wants to fight, cornerbacks down the field. I think he's had 10 fines in 3 seasons from the NFL for conduct on the field. So yeah, it's time for him to mature and grow up. It could be a disaster because he could just carry on those antics, and I think those things would be amplified or magnified more in Dallas, especially if that coincides with the team not winning. So yeah, there is an element where it could go wrong, but I think it's a risk well worth taking given what you're giving up.
Yeah, and I agree. Well, because 1 year you've not you've signed him and then given him another contract, which would have been disastrous. It's saying that it's not like the Cowboys to give a contract early anyway. So
no wrong players.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it's
maybe.
Yeah, I think it's worth the risk. 1 year. If it doesn't work out, midway through the season, they can always just cut him as well, like what happened with Deontay Johnson. So I think they needed someone. They need someone who has the potential. Because where else are you going to go? There was a wide receiver just released from Jacksonville, like Gabe Davis. Like, would you want Gabe Davis as number 2, or would you go for it with Pickens and try and build from there? So I think it's got the highest ceiling to work out.
Yeah. Excellent. Any more thoughts on the Pickens trade before we move on?
One of the things about Tomlin letting him go, I think if the Steelers had let him go for like a 6th round pick, I'd be like, oh, geez, they really wanted rid. I think the fact they held out for a 3rd and got it, indicates they weren't desperate to get rid of him. They gave us 2nd for DK Metcalf. They really just gave back a round and a year on the Metcalf to Pickens deal. That doesn't quite indicate to me that they were desperate to get rid of him. Like I say, if it had just been like a late round pick swap or something, you'd be like, okay, he's really coming with baggage. I'm not as concerned about Pickens' character or his locker room presence as a lot of people are. We will see, obviously. But yeah, I just wanted to throw that in. And Joe's done a masterful job of pivoting us because, I would much rather take the upside with any character concerns over a sub-level receiver like Gabe Davis, in my opinion,
Speaking of characters, that was one thing I wanted to add. The Pittsburgh Steelers, as it stands, still have Mason Rudolph pegged in as their starting quarterback.
Yeah.
We've been sat here waiting to think. It seems to be that it's going to be Aaron Rodgers to the Steelers. Does having no one having Metcalf and Pickens make that a less attractive proposition for Aaron Rodgers potentially going to the Steelers, given the offensive struggles that they've had and the lack of weapons? Because you've got DK, you've got Pat Freiermuth, who's fine, solid. Calvin Austin, maybe. That's kind of it, really, in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, Roman Wilson after a non-starter rookie year. Yeah, it's not a selling point, again, is it? Like I was saying with Mike Tomlin wanting to get rid of your players, it's not a selling point. But I think Rodgers will either want to go or he doesn't want to go. I think it's more, does he want to play another year of football? How much more can he drag this out and keep in the limelight, whatever his decision is? I don't think it's going to be they don't have him, so I'm not going. And I think there's still the opportunity maybe for Kirk Cousins to get moved, potentially, from Atlanta, depending on how much of a stink he's put up by Kirk Cousins as we get closer to training camp and the start of the season. So I don't think it's do or die for Pittsburgh. I do have a sneaky feeling that Pittsburgh, like I said earlier, with all the draft picks, might just be happy to not push it as much this year. Might finally see Tomlin's run come to an end, but I think I've said it the last 7 years, so what do I know?
if they're trotting out Mason Rudolph for 17 games, then no, they're not winning. They're not winning 9 games. It's just
tough to say.
Yeah. It'd be tough for them. You mentioned one bit, I suppose. Well, 2 other bits. Gabe Davis released by the Jags. So he went there last year in free agency on, was it 3 years, 39 million, and then had just
20 catches, I think it was last year. I don't have it in front of me, but it wasn't many.
20 catches in 10 games. 20 catches, 240 yards in 10 games, all career lows.
I think he's had more than that versus the Chiefs in the playoffs alone at Buffalo. Yeah, what a waste of a... And it was one of them where you could see it coming a mile off. He's never been a contributor outside of one game against the Chiefs in the playoffs. He was a deep ball receiver who is incredibly fluky at it, streaky at it. I don't know where he'll go. I don't think he'll be getting starter money. Anything he gets is offset by the Jags, so he'll be signing on minimum veteran like Russell Wilson did a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I think it could be a good fit for be the third wide receiver, somewhere like the Chargers, who are just crying out for bodies in that wide receiver room. I think he can still do a job. There's been rumors going back to the Bills, but the Bills have just signed Elijah Moore just before his release. I know that's not a be all and end all, but if he does go there, he's probably going to be the 5th, 6th wide receiver. So I think
need a definitely player.
Yeah, well, they got Kurt. Yeah,
just a player in Buffalo.
So they got Josh Palmer and Elijah Moore. And they got Curtis Samuel, Keon Coleman, and Shakir. And they normally have 5 wide receivers on that roster. So they would have to. And do you want to put him in to stop the rookies getting the catches? It might be there near the end. But I think a team who are just craving just some bodies in there, like the Chargers, even like people like the Broncos,
Carolina, maybe.
Yeah, I think there's teams out there who'll give him a shot. He'll definitely be on a team in training camp and fighting for a place somewhere, because I think he can contribute, but just not be that number 2 wide receiver, which he had the potential coming out of Bills, and obviously didn't show that.
Excellent. Other bits, Jadeveon Clowney released by the Panthers today. Just don't think it's ever going to work out for Jadeveon Clowney, is it really? I think he's just going to go bounce around 1 year deals, isn't it, for the rest of time?
I was surprised with this. I thought they might keep him just so he could teach the 2 rookie edge rushers. I know would he stop them from playing? And obviously they're a long-term team. They're not a team who are going to be challenging for the playoffs and titles next year. So why keep someone on a decent contract? But I think it's really interesting where he goes. I think he could be a big player. Like there's teams like the Bengals, we said they're crying out for. Yep. Another edge rusher. The Lions could be a great position. I know there's Darius Smith went there last year, but they didn't re-sign him, and he's still there. Teams like the Commanders, the Packers. I wouldn't mind him at the 49ers, to be honest, just to get another body at the edge, because we haven't got enough of them, and I think you could get him on a cheap 1 year, 9-10 million, and he does produce. He might not get the massive sacks, but he definitely gets the pressures, and he's certainly a veteran player who. These teams who do progress, I think if the Lions get him, I would love that. I would love the Lions to get. I think they should just get him and Zadarius Smith. Fuck it, just go all in and get enough players on there, because they showed last year what happens when your star man gets injured.
Well, Clowney kind of showed a little bit more of kind of what we're expecting to see earlier in his career when he had that year at Baltimore. I think he had 10 sacks or 9.5 sacks. Looked a lot better, but I don't know. That's 11 years. He's on to 11 years in the league. That's 6 teams that he's been on now. It's been a rough year. I'm trying to think all the number 1 picks in that time. It's been a rough run for him, hasn't it? Just not really. Ended up being a real big disappointment. I say disappointment. He finished with 9 and 9.5 sacks for his last 2 years.
Yeah, I was gonna say he's been good. He's just not been the number 1 pick you expected. You used to look at some other big time players. I think he's had a better career than Chase Young, for example. He's actually been a higher than average player for every single team, and that's why I think he would certainly work out on a lot of them teams.
It's just weird that so many teams move on from him, because again, you never really hear anything about him being we've just spent 15 minutes talking about George Pickens as a potential cancer in the locker room. Well, I didn't say cancer in the locker room, but a potential negative in the locker room. And I don't think, again, refresh my memory if I've completely forgotten something, but I never seem to hear anything really bad about Clowney. It's just he just gets released after a year, and you're like, well, he produces.
Yeah, a bit like Calais Campbell. He could obviously he's a good locker room guy, and that's where he's coming out. But he always feels like moves on every year. That they basically give him 1 year deal, and then he's like, "I'll test free agency. Someone's willing to pay me a little bit more than you are to keep me, and you may have drafted someone, etc." So I think he could be the new. And there's not too much difference, but like a Calais Campbell, where it just goes around veteran presence on these teams, and it keeps going for a couple more years.
Yeah, we'll see. And then I think that's it really, isn't it, Javen Clark? And then Tyreek Hill has gone under wrist surgery. Other bit of news, obviously he just wasn't really right at all, was he, last year? Tyreek.
Yeah. I think that's interesting in terms of, because there was a rumours he would be traded at the draft. So I wonder if that's put a few teams off trading for him. So I'm curious where that'll go. There was some news that obviously Jonathan Brooks being out for the year is already which is sad news. And is he going to be another one of them players which unfortunately doesn't get his opportunity in the NFL just with the injuries? Which what was a QB who's just retired? Who had
Travis from Florida State. Quarterback that was at the Jets. Yeah, he just had to hang it up. Which was brutal. And did his college career with that horrific leg break, and it just was never right. Which is a shame because he had such a good year. And the other bit is Dallas got it reworked a deal, didn't it, for 2025. He's going to restructure and stay with the Eagles after some discussion that he may have been leaving, but he's back with the Super Bowl champs.
Yeah, I did see in the news that during the draft, a few teams had reached out to trade for him, and he was involved. And I think he just said, "I'll stay with you guys for less money rather than be traded to probably some of these washed up kind of teams." So why not? They're probably the favourites to win the Super Bowl again next year. So
yes, they are currently. I also did take on the back of George Pickens trade. This is why we're talking about favourites bets, because I thought the price might move. It hasn't. I took Dallas at 7-1 to win the NFC East. Just as a point.
Price.
Yeah, it probably will move before the season starts, but they're third favourites, of course, behind the Eagles and the Commanders. So we shall see. Right, on to our guest. Yeah, we've got a great guest. So this is the second in our NFL Academy series. We're with Barney Short, who's been at the NFL Academy in Loughborough. I think he's just about to complete his first year there now. So, Barney is one of the defensive linemen and interior defensive linemen for the NFL Academy. I get to sit down, discuss how he got there, what life at the NFL Academy is like, and what the future is, and also talk a little bit of San Francisco 49ers with Barney as well. He's a big Niners fan. I'm sure you're happy with that, Joe. So here's Barney Short of the NFL Academy. NFL Academy member Barney Short joining us from Loughborough. Barney, welcome to Good Teams Win, Great Teams Cover. Thanks ever so much for joining us. How are you doing, first of all?
Yeah, thank you very much for having me. I'm doing great, thanks. How are you?
Yeah, good. Yeah, always great. Like I said, this is our second episode. We got to speak to Enrique a few weeks ago, so it's great to continue this and sit down and chat with yourself. You are there in Loughborough as part of the NFL Academy. What point of the year are you at now in terms of kind of where you are, what's going on there at the Academy at the minute?
Yeah, so we're kind of reaching the end of our spring games. We've got, at least from the point of this recording, is we've got a game on Saturday. And then after that, it's kind of preparation for summer camp tours and, kind of sprint training.
Excellent, cool. Busy time then, as always. And we're getting to know and getting to learn a little bit more about the NFL Academy, so we appreciate you coming on. Talk us through a little bit, Barney, if that's okay, around your journey to the NFL Academy, if that's okay, in terms of how did you first start getting involved in American football?
Yeah, so I mean, I've been playing this would be the start of my third season British American football wise. I've started playing, I would say would have been the year, start of like year 11 for me. I had a friend from my school introduce it to me, Ben Pickworth, shout out there. He brought me along to the local club, Solent Seahawks Academy, and I kind of just loved it from there. Played first season there, that was 5-a-side because I was under 16, And then the next season, I trialed for GB Lions U17, and also played a little bit for the Rushmore Knights Academy. Like they do an 11-a-side program, so that got me a little bit more experience in the game. And then, academy-wise, I heard about it from just online, really, and from others. I thought I might as well give it a shot, and signed up for the application, handed my application in. Got an invite to the combine in Loughborough last year, and got an offer off the back of that combine just after, which was great, from Coach Hagan.
Yeah, so that journey is crazy there, Alexia, because we've seen all the guys have got such different different varied journeys to get to the NFL Academy, and it's great, to hear how sort of quickly from getting just involved in the sport to being able to kind of push on to get there. You mentioned you started off at kind of the Solent Seahawks. What is that, Southampton down on the South Coast?
Yeah, South Coast.
What's the scene like there for American football then down on the South Coast?
I mean, yeah, I'd say there's quite a good quality down there. This kind of the southern divisions are up to a good standard. So that gave me a good starting point. I started off playing receiver, funnily enough, then moved to D-line on the last game of the season.
That's quite the change. There can't be many players that have gone through wide receiver to D-line.
No, I don't think so. It's a rare one. But yeah, a way to get playing time.
Well, maybe so. But look, it's all about you've got the hands of the D-line as well. You've got all the tricks in your bag now. Yeah, great hands from a receiver to transition into the D-line. And what was your sporting background before, Barney? Then before kind of you took on American football.
I mean, so I always kind of did sports. There was always something I was doing on the side. My parents are both PE teachers, which kind of helped, create a sporty atmosphere in the household at least. And so I kind of did athletics was a big one. Did a bit of rugby before coming over to the academy. And yes, I mean, my family is a bit of a rugby family. My uncle was kind of my uncle was a pro for Bath and Leicester and Exeter and places, and my granddad's similar as well. And then my dad also was a semi-pro, so it's kind of always been there a little bit. The contact sports, background.
And that seems to be a very popular route, I think, from when speaking to guys that are, guys and gals that are taking part in, British American football, and even people at the academy. Rugby's makes sense as a route in. What were the challenges you faced then in maybe like transitioning from rugby to American football?
I mean, to be fair, I really only started rugby after American football, so I kind of did it as an off-season thing. Okay. But yeah, I mean, I found that it definitely helps with your tackling technique. It's a lot more kind of secure tackles. And then, I mean, it definitely helps with the endurance side.
Yeah, sure. 8 minutes non-stop for sure. Yeah, that'll certainly help them when you are playing American football. And kind of having kind of a real sprint then in terms of starting playing American football to where you are now at the academy. I suppose, how was the academy itself then kind of helping you push on when you, like I say, mentioned you kind of at a third season? How's it helping you drive on?
Well, I think coming into it, I mean, kind of the game, the 11-a-side game is kind of very rare to play in England, like unless you play for GB. So I felt very fresh coming into it last year. And I feel like I've just learned a whole load. Like you kind of, your football IQ definitely develops like an insane amount. And then as a player as well, just becoming faster, stronger, more agile. Yeah, it just completely changed me as a player, I think.
Yeah. I've seen from some of your posts in terms of obviously quite a lot of activity in terms of tracking your progress, and kind of as you're still going through that stage of still growing and
Yeah.
How is that? We've seen you kind of one of the big focuses has been piling on the weight a little bit more. I think it shows on the academy site you listed at like 220 something, but in your updates you're beyond that now. How is that kind of adjusting? That to your playing style, bulking up while still being able to maintain what you need to do from a playing perspective. How are you balancing that?
Yeah, I mean, of course, it's not trying to. Whilst you're trying to put on as much weight as possible, if you were to put it all on at like once, you're kind of losing the speed, and so it's kind of. I mean, it has been a build up. It's been kind of just building since I joined. And so I think I'm 250 now, and when I joined, I was like 200 pounds. So yeah, it is pretty crazy. But yeah, I'd say kind of we have great nutritionists that kind of keep us on a good track of eating healthy. A lot of porridge, honestly, is how I've built up. But yeah, I mean, it is quite a careful balance you have to create to gain that muscle whilst not losing any of the kind of the speed and the power. But yeah, how it's helped me though is I joined with the kind of hope of playing defensive end on the line, but now I've kind of just been moved into the nose tackle positions on the D line. So it kind of it does change what your kind of your power and that kind of ratio of where you best suit the field.
And there's a different skill set required to play D tackle to D end or edge. How has that transition been in terms of playing in the middle of the line? Because it's a much different set of skills, a much different challenge than playing wider or on the edge.
I think playing on the inside suits my skill set more than on the edge. I think just to be able to get straight into the contact with the O-line is much more preferable for me compared to kind of trying to weave your way around on the end. And then I like to use kind of the speed to power rushes, the stuff like your kind of your bull rushes and stuff like that. So it does suit me, I think, more than the end does. But I'm still able to play end though, like if needed to be, which is great.
Versatility as well, another key aspect, and that's the thing. A trend I see with a lot of the academy guys as well. From again seeing learning more, a lot of them can play multiple positions. We spoke to Enrique.
Yeah,
he plays corner, plays a bit of wide receiver, can play a bit of running back. He can do it all, which is a great skill set to possess. Doing that for sure. Talk us through kind of, Barney, what does like a typical day look like then at the NFL Academy there in Loughborough?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of depends what part of the season we're in. At the moment, because we're in season, you kind of have the busiest day would be wake up at about 6 to head for gym at 6:30. Gym session will be about an hour, so you have gym, then breakfast, and then school would normally be school takes the morning period. So yeah, Loughborough College, which is where I'm doing my A-levels there at the moment. So that's quite a big priority. Got exams coming up, so but yeah, so school in the morning, then we normally have film sessions towards the afternoon, and following film practice, and practice will take about 2 hours normally.
Yeah,
then it's dinner, and then
and then do it all again. Like it's it is a hectic schedule. And you mentioned there's obviously studying as well, and that's a huge part. So one of the points as well, and quite rightly in your profile that you're promoting, you are what translates as a 4.0 academic student as well. So how is that then being able to balance the studies as well as kind of the development as an American football player?
Yeah, I mean, it's an important balance, and it is one they stress quite well in the academy. Like if you're a student athlete, you're a student first, athlete second. And there's great framework to kind of help us keep on track as much as possible. So yeah, I find it's been great to there's no real problems concerning academics. You know, I transferred from my old sixth form college into here when I got the offer. So and that was a very smooth transition. So it hasn't really had an effect on my academics. But I mean, part of it is kind of, you know, self-motivation into doing it.
Yeah, and for sure. And then that's the thing, you know, when you look at moving forward, and, you know, there's a lot of attention on the NFL Academy as well, and having that, you know, ability on the field, off the field as well, helps that that cognitive ability, the football IQ stuff. Then, you know, that's certainly backed up by a strong academic background as well. So great work continuing that for sure.
Thank you.
I mean, so you've been accepted, I think, when I saw from your post at the academy about this time about 12 months ago that
yeah, pretty much.
Academy,
Well, yeah, I joined 24th of April last year.
Okay, so just
nearing that.
So just short of a full year. What would you say, and it's hard to pin down one thing, but just for the obviously purposes while we're talking it through, what's been kind of one outstanding, memorable moment or outstanding achievement so far from your time in the academy?
Yeah, I think probably the coolest moment so far has been playing in Tottenham Stadium. That was pretty crazy. Just the atmosphere, and then you feel like a professional player in those kind of moments. So that was pretty cool. Coolest achievement, I mean, there have been many, which is A-level academically, A-level MVP was quite cool. Got a nice jacket from that. On the field, I think I'd say your minor kind of achievements every day kind of build up into that kind of major achievement. So it's just every day in practice, having good reps, building on that, improving that thing you wanted to do, you're trying to work on. For me, at least, that's what I take as the most major achievement, is just being able to improve each day.
And that's got a continuous improvement. Again, it's just going to stand you in good stead for the rest of the way. So we've seen some of the guys from the academy have got offers this year to go to play in America. We've seen a couple of guys have got on at Nicholls State and some other places. So Enrique got the chance to go and play in Germany, which is cool. What's kind of your kind of plan? So you've been at 12 months at the academy now. What's kind of this next 12 to 24 months looking like for you, Barney?
Yeah, I mean, the next 12 months are kind of trying to push for America, really. Obviously, kind of my GPA helps with opening up availability of schools. So, I mean, for me, like an Ivy League school would be quite a good fit, I feel. Like the kind of balance of academics and football, especially because they're all on the D1 FCS level, which is like a very, very high level. So, yeah, it's trying to push for America. And that's kind of the next 12 months, see what we can do, really.
Yeah, and how sort of when you're seeing others kind of get the opportunity to go and travel and to go out there and play, kind of how motivating, how inspiring is it to see these guys that this is a real pathway where you can go and make it happen?
Yeah, I mean, it is very inspiring to see. Yeah, because there's examples all around you, like any situation, any background. Kind of, there's examples of people who have gone on to get offers in those places in the academy. So it is kind of inspiring stuff.
Good stuff, yeah. And long may it continue. It seems to be a real pipeline now, especially coming out of Loughborough, of players being able to go and take those opportunities. And speaking of that, there's a lot of the coaches that I've got great experience from. Colleges, and also I think there's some guys there in the NFL. I wanted to ask you a little bit about I think one of your D-line coaches, and correct me if I'm wrong, Chase Baker, I think is one of the D-line coaches. Yeah. So that's somebody who's played at high level in college, Boise State, and then also got to play for the Minnesota Vikings for a period of time about 10, 12 years ago. How is it having someone like that as one of kind of your main coaches?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty inspiring because it's just a living example of someone who's got to that level. And I mean, yeah, he's a great coach. Great to be around. Also great on the field. I couldn't I couldn't say anything. I have no words to speak how highly I think of him. Yeah, I think he's great.
And what are the things, I suppose, from somebody who's played in the NFL? What kind of things are you able to take away from Coach Baker then, in terms of that experience, and what has he added to your game at this point?
I mean, technically wise, all the skills that he's kind of picked up along the way we're taught, which is extremely helpful in improving our game. And then on the side as well, he has all that experience of getting college offers, how to talk to coaches, all that kind of sideline stuff that you don't necessarily see on the field. He also is, he's an expert in. So it's great to have that kind of figure to go for advice. It's invaluable.
Yeah, I was seeing, and I don't know if he talks or shares much about his college experience with you. I'm sure he does at Boise State, but he was part of like a 3-year period where they were the most winningest teams in NCAA history. They went 50-3 in 3 seasons, which is madness.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know. And to have that coaching you is mental, really.
It's a great opportunity. I think, like I say, it just goes to show again what the NFL Academy, and there's loads of examples of those coaches. I know one of the coaches has just got a job back in the NCAA. I think it's with Oklahoma State. There's great examples of the coaches coming out and getting great jobs off the back of it as well. While you're still real early on in your journey, a journey that we obviously hope ends up at the highest level for you, what would you maybe give anybody who's looking to kind of start that path? What advice, mate, would you give them now about kind of tackling that journey to the NFL Academy?
Yeah. I mean, it's really trying to get as much experience as possible before you kind of join. I think that helps a lot. I mean, for myself, who didn't really have that much experience, once you get into it, though, it's like you can be coached to that level. It's kind of like they break you down to then build you back up. So no matter what kind of standard you are, they'll make you great, really. I mean, that's kind of that's the key thing, really.
Yeah, and just that being coachable again, that skill again, that all these schools are going to look for when they're looking at the academy. That being able to be coached and take on feedback and take on direct coaching. Huge part of developing as a player. Have you got who has been or what's been your biggest influence or mentor in your kind of football journey so far?
Yeah, I would say Coach Chase would be one. Coach Hagan as well, the head coach. I mean, he's pretty inspirational if you look at his career, and I mean, he just knows what he's talking about. He's invaluable to have around as well. Just experience. Again, with trying to get recruited as well. He has a wealth of knowledge which you can tap into, and people he knows as well, which helps a lot.
Oh, it's a huge network, isn't it? I suppose that you've got. I think Coach Hagan's been there for coming up for like 18 months, 2 years now, and it's just crazy. Yeah. Again, just somebody with that experience, being able to kind of get them involved in the academy is just again testament to show kind of how serious that setup is.
It's crazy. It is. It's almost like, I mean, it basically mimics a college program with the timetable, the practice, what we do in practice. It is mad.
And that's someone who's been kind of here, there, and everywhere across college, across the NFL. It is, crazy thing that we've got someone like that leading that academy in this country, which I think is really, really cool to have, and just shows you how serious this is. Mm-hmm. Barney, we talked a little bit off air, and I think we should talk a little bit about off air as well, on air as well. You are a San Francisco 49ers fan.
Yeah.
Rough year last year.
Yeah.
Rough year last year.
Yeah, I mean,
things will get better as they do for the Niners. How did you end up following the Niners?
Yeah, so I mean, as I was going to say, I was a fan before all the Super Bowl kind of things happened. But yeah, so my my dad was a fan from when he was a kid because he used to watch it. They used to be quite, I think, shown quite prevalently in the UK. So I mean, he probably was a little bit of a Glory supporter when it came to supporting them, because they had a lot of success back then in the 90s. And
it's early 90s.
But yeah, so I kind of just jumped on that. I'd say kind of the 2017, 2018 was kind of when it started, at least kind of knowing what they were about. And then once I properly got into American football, then I was like dedicated supporter. I think the season where we got to the Super Bowl in Las Vegas, I'd watched every game, like getting up at insane hours in the morning to just watch the game. Last season, not so much. Wasn't going so well. But yeah, hopefully next season we'll be okay.
Yeah, the life of a UK NFL fan's tough, especially if you're a fan of a West Coast team as well, just because the time difference is brutal. And
Oh yeah.
So many late games as a result. It is tough. You don't often get blessed with like the 6 o'clock game. So yeah.
No. 4 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah. It is rough.
1 o'clock, yeah.
It is rough for the West Coast guys. What are you hoping they can do? So surely the Niners will bounce back. We've got Joe, one of our hosts, a big 49ers fan as well. Surely they'll bounce back this year. How do you think the Niners are going to do in 2025?
I think we need to secure some decent... Well, we've got quite a few draft picks this year, so that should be quite helpful in trying to rebuild the losses. Because, again, whilst we have many draft picks, we also have a lot of losses off the off-season, like Deebo Samuel. But hopefully this kind of younger squad will kind of revive the team a little bit, because the last few years, our players have kind of been getting on a bit. Like, if you look at what Kittle and McCaffrey and Juszczyk, they're all in, like, their 8th, 9th seasons. So maybe this could be a good thing, getting a younger squad in. I guess we'll have to see, really. Hopefully.
Bit of a youth movement for the Niners, yeah. I'm sure they will. I'm sure they'll bounce back. They've been real successful under Shanahan, more often than not going deep in the playoffs. So I'm sure that will return in 2025. I'm going to put you on the spot for one final question, if that's all right, Barney.
Okay.
It is a mean question. Obviously, you're on your journey right now, and we hope, obviously, we've got everything crossed here that you'll get there, and you'll get the offers that you want, and you'll get that chance to go to America. Who else, though, should we be watching out for in this next 12 to 18 months coming out of the academy?
I think someone to watch who is also on the D-line, this is his first year of, I think he has at least 2 years left. So he is one of the younger ones. Tobias Goddardberg. He's one to watch. I think Coach Chase has mentioned him on Twitter before. I think you might have seen that in the interviews. But yeah, I definitely think he's a talent that by the end of his time in the academy, will go on to do some good things.
Excellent. Cool. Shout out to Tobias. Like it. Good stuff.
Yeah.
Looking after your fellow D lineman as well.
Got to look after the squad.
How is that in terms of, and I promise this will be the last question, how is that? Do you see that kind of that fraternity style of the position groups kind of being tight like that, through the kind of the team building in the academy?
Yeah, I think the strongest example is the O-line. Like, they're a tight knit bunch. I wouldn't say it's like a dividing factor at all. Like, everyone kind of just hangs out with everyone, honestly. Sure, I mean, you spend more time around the guys who are in your positional group, but when it comes to it, everyone's just kind of intertwining, with other positional groups. It's pretty free flowing.
Good stuff. And how has it been there? Because Loughborough Centre, not just for the NFL guys, academy guys as well, it's a centre of excellence for sports and elite sports. How is it then kind of having all those kind of other elite student athletes as well around you?
Yeah, so that's pretty cool. Because I mean, it's inspiring as well, motivating. Just the other day, I saw Alex Yee in Tesco, the triathlon gold medalist, which is crazy. I didn't have the courage to go up to him and say hi, but that was pretty cool. And you kind of just see, I think there's in the gym training with us sometimes. There's in the corner. There's like a bronze medalist boxer. Like it is kind of crazy. It's just and the other day as well, I saw one of the England rugby players, Freddie Stewart, just because I think he was commentating a game. So you just see personalities all the time, which is mental, really. If you're such a big fan of sport as well, like it's kind of heaven a little bit. You just walk around, you see a famous personality. It's mental.
Yeah, and it must be so great there. Like I said, so the iron sharpens iron piece of just having all those, like I say, elite athletes. All in one place for sure. Barney, we've taken up obviously plenty of your evening. We just want to thank you again for coming on. Good teams win, great teams cover. Best of luck on the rest of your journey from us. We'll be following along.
Thank you very much.
Where can our listeners and viewers follow you on your socials to be able to kind of keep track of your journey?
Yeah, I have Twitter, which is Barney, short Barney07, I think, and then my Instagram, which is BarneyShort.sports1, which is a strange username, but it's one I'll stick with.
That's you've gone too far with it now. I think you have to keep it.
Yeah. I know that's the problem I'm facing now.
So, but we'll make sure. Obviously, we'll be supporting you and cheering you on from afar, and like I say, we'll be tracking you along your way. Best of luck with the rest of your time at the academy, and we can't wait to see
Thank you very much.
Where that journey leads you. Thanks to Barney there. Great to sit down and chat with another member of the NFL Academy. Go give Barney a follow at shortbarney07 over on X to see his journey through the rest of the academy and hopefully over to college football in America. That wraps up this episode. We'll be back next week after the schedule release. We'll be finding out which teams are coming to London, which team is coming to Dublin to play the Pittsburgh Steelers, plus the schedule. So we'll have our early bets to the future episode. Once we know kind of how the schedule is going to play out, we'll talk through also some of our games we're looking forward to the most. We'll do a little bit on our revenge games of the year. We did a whole episode for that last year, but it'll just be a little part of next week's episode. And then we're going to kick off our Mastermind series. The Good Teams Win, Great Teams Cover 2025 Mastermind competition, where we've gathered 16 of the UK and Ireland's finest NFL content creator minds in a big battle of wits and knowledge about all things NFL. So that's coming starting in 2 weeks' time. As always, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Good Teams Win, Great Teams Cover. We appreciate you. Give us a follow. For the podcast audio version, it's available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podbean, Overcast. Video version available on YouTube. Follow X, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and Blue Sky at GTW_GTC. And we'll see you next time.